beautiful Renegades. This is Tina Lorenz, host of your Renegade Boomer podcast. Apologize for a little bit of laryngitis, but we're going on with this show because I feel fine. And I'm really excited about today's guest, Nicky Vaux. She's known as the Boat Princess of Australia. And I just love that. She's an avid entrepreneur, hospitality expert, boating advocate for women, and has built an extensive career around one premise, which is making others feel good. So gotta love that. She's got in hospitality and catering management. She's worked in such luxury places as the Ritz Hotel. She's committed to the highest levels of excellence. And Nicky, I just have another little minute here about all the things that you're doing, because she's a partner and business development manager for Sydney's most awarded marina. She's owned multiple boats, as well as being a boat broker for many years. And she specializes, I particularly love this, in curated trips for women in Australia called Venus Getaways. And she's part owner of Spilt Milk Bar, where they make gelato from scratch, and has recently opened Waterside Bistro and won awards for that. So I don't know, Nicky, what do you do in your spare time? Welcome, Nicky. Welcome to the Renegade Boomer.
Thank you so much. You made me blush. That was quite an intro.
Well, that's only part of it. I mean, I had to shorten it up.
Well, the funny thing is, we've started a new business I'll have to tell you about as well. So, you know,
I can't wait to hear. So I'm curious, though, what you think is important. You know, the Renegade Boomer is an anti-retirement movement. It's all about those of us past 50, some of us far past 50, moving into that next chapter in life and really creating the best of our life with the rest of our life. So what resonates for you with that?
Well, I love that I'm in my 50s. I think it's a new time for me. I mean, a perfect example is right now I'm at a fantastic villa in Fiji, which I'm looking at for Venus Getaways to potentially add to that group. And it's called Villa Takali in Fiji. And I only got asked to do this on Thursday of last week, and I was here on Monday. That's something I can do in my 50s. I couldn't have done it in my 20s, 30s, 40s because of commitments to work and commitments to children and all those sorts of things. So I simply couldn't have done that. So I think 50s is very exciting, and I've got a beautiful connection with so many incredible women that have achieved so much, and we enjoy exciting conversations together and exciting times together. I have a beautiful relationship with my husband, which is another level to what it was when I was younger. I'm seeing my children adulting. They're such incredible human beings. And it's something about when you have young children, you don't think about the amazing adults you're going to get to spend time with. And I'm like, wow, these are incredible human beings. And we created them to a certain extent. You know, a lot of them is them, but so incredibly proud of them. So there's so many parts to being in this age group that's, I think, so exciting.
Well, and it's just going to keep getting better. 60s. I mean, I think that's the really exciting part. And I have to say, I just love just this moment, learning that you're actually in Fiji, because I thought you were in Australia while we were chatting. So it's like, perfect. And I love that you're able, with very short notice. There's more to it, though. I feel like there's more to that decision and taking action like that than just, well, now I can because my children are older. So let's talk about that for a minute, about what happens in the mindset for women, especially, who are so used to caring for everyone else first, right? And being able to make a decision quickly and just go do it. So tell me more about that, how you think that happens for women.
Well, I think it's a confidence thing that you do in your 50s get to a level that you think, no, I can do that and I can just go. I do have a very supportive husband that, I'm not going to say lets me go, but supports me in going, right? Because I know some women don't. And on the flip side of that, if he wants to do something, he doesn't have to ask, he just goes and does his thing as well. So I think that's part of it. But I think it's also a realization that life isn't forever. And if somebody gives you an opportunity to just be in Fiji for a few days, you've got to say, I might never get that again, so I'm going to do it. And just do it. Yeah.
It's almost like a muscle that needs to be flexed. I think it's a mindset issue of thinking, yeah, it's really okay. I really can do whatever the thing is, fill in the blank. And yours is kind of way up here because it's Fiji. It's not just, I think I'll put purple streaks in my hair, or something like that. It's really like, I'm getting on a plane and I'm really going somewhere far, far away. Have you been to Fiji before?
I haven't been to Fiji since I was 21. I actually came to Fiji on my way to Australia as a backpacker. So Villa de Cali is just a little bit better than the accommodation I stayed in.
It looks like it. It looks amazing.
It's absolutely stunning. Yeah.
Well, with all your accomplishments, the major theme seems to be the boating industry, right? And so how did you get into boating?
Okay, how did I get into boating? I used to boat with my dad as a child, as a teenager. We used to go sailing together in Poole Harbour in the UK, just on little dinghies. And we would race together in a racing week that was at the holiday location we used to go to there. It was actually a castle on an island. That's so English. So we used to go there for our holidays for me as a child, and I used to sail with my dad. So that's what got me into boating. And the little boat that used to take us back and forth to the island, that was the first boat I ever fell in love with, because it took me to a happy place. And so it was a real sense of, oh yeah, we're going to Brownsea, and yeah, that little boat, which is still going because she was built in the 1960s, she was my first love of boats. Yeah.
That's so cool. And then you graduated you ended up owning boats yourself and then became a boat broker, right?
Yes, we had a marina, and the boat broker at the marina was going to leave. That was in the GFC. So the rent had got too hard for him. So we said, well, don't leave because you're a good one. Can we involve you in the marina more? And he said, okay. And then he could only do limited days. So I said to my husband, well, I could come in and help out and be in the office when he's not, and so on. And Darren said, well, okay, but I can only pay you commission. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll get paid commission. So that's what I did. I really threw myself in the deep end, and my marina director says, I couldn't believe you just learnt and learnt and learnt. I have to say, Tina, it is an advantage being a woman in that scenario, because the boating industry is very male dominated. But if you genuinely go to a boat mechanic with a survey report from a boat that you're selling and say, what does that mean? He will happily tell you everything that means. And it's kind of an advantage. Yeah.
So, you take women on adventures also. I mean, you go on yachts. I mean, you're talking about Fiji right now, but do you also go on more water-based adventures with women?
We've done a couple of events with women. We did one last May where we took a 90-footer out, and they all paid a ticket price to be on the boat, and we had food and drink on the boat. And then we just enjoyed being on a big boat. And some of those women had never been on a boat of that size. They ranged from people that are champion sailors to world champion sailors, our beautiful Nick, to people that were just good friends, or they knew of Venus Getaways and so on and so forth. But they were a complete range of different women. And some of them hadn't even been on a boat before, let alone a boat of that size. And to get that sensation, that feeling of being on such a beautiful boat on Sydney Harbour, which, I mean, it's just gorgeous. And to see the joy in their faces, to see that blue mind kick in and that feeling in them, it's wonderful.
I love that, blue mind. I love that. There's a book that talks about the red ocean and the blue ocean when it talks to marketing, and we want to be in the blue ocean, meaning have uniqueness and differentiation and not be in the water that's running red, teeming with piranhas, because everybody's fighting over the same tidbit,
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that with getting in the blue frame of mind. It just sounds so peaceful.
It is. It's actually a psychological moment. And there's a book about it by one of your countrymen, Wallace J. Nichols, has written a book completely about blue mind. It's fascinating, and it's on Audible as well. So good to listen to.
Tell me more about it. Tell me, what are some of the features of blue mind?
Well, fundamentally, if you're spending time in, on, or around water, the mind actually changes to a different place. Serotonin goes up, cortisol goes down, all those sorts of things, and you feel different. So you would know all the memories that we have as a child going on holiday on a beach or a boat, they're very much stronger in our memories, and that's because we were in blue mind at the time. So that's why I love boating, because it puts people into that state. And because we all live such incredibly stressful, busy lives now, and we're always in front of a screen, boating is a complete juxtaposition to that. And it's such a contrast to our general lifestyle that it gives us that state of mind, and that's good for everybody. So I genuinely believe that if there are more people out boating, the world is a happier place.
Wow, that's amazing. And I used to live in Seattle, and it's a big boating community as well. And think about it, like how you feel when you're on a beach. You're just close to the water, and that kind of peaceful feeling that can come over you just watching the waves. And I watched a fascinating documentary called The Secret Life of Waves, and that was also super interesting because people think the waves just come up on the beach and kind of disappear, but really they just go back to their source. They go back to their source. It's just undulations that causes the wave in the first place. And that kind of, to me, taps into the whole blue mind aspect as well, because we can kind of go to that place mentally as far as calming and how we think and how we handle stress and what is our natural state, and is our natural state, because there's kind of, I don't know, I'd take the next level and say there's a divinity to that blue mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
So I love that. It's just fascinating, all of these things, because it's much more than let's go on a boat and have a party. There's just so much more to it. So why do you think there's not more women in boating? Because really, when I saw what your specialty is before we had our interview, it's kind of unusual, and I think that must be where you found a gap, that there's not that many people, it doesn't seem like, talking about women and boating. And let's talk about the advertising. Is it aimed at men or is it aimed at women? So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I'm seeing a great change, and that thrills me. I'm seeing boat companies now putting not only a woman, because there have been bikini women used in advertising,
draped on the boat.
Now they're using mature, elegantly dressed women driving the boat in advertising. So that's fantastic. We're also seeing more women coming into the boating industry and really having a voice and helping other women in the boating industry as well. And I don't think it's ever been about the guys trying to keep the women out. I just don't think it's been on the radar of women as an industry to be in. And that's what we're trying to do, just making people aware that the boating industry is an incredible space to be. And there are so many incredible different roles across the industry. And that's what I do with my podcast. I interview people who are doing completely different roles, from photographers to designers to mechanics to marina managers, all across the board, so that women can see those different roles that exist and how those people have got into those roles, so that they can understand, oh, okay, that's potentially something I could do.
Absolutely. My life online started as a freelance copywriter, marketing strategist, and I still have copywriting courses as well with part of what I do in my business. So my mind's immediately racing forward to opportunities for women in copywriting for marketing for the boating industry. And that particular niche market, I think a lot of women probably haven't really thought of. Do you think they have to have boating experience themselves to just work in the industry? Do you think they can learn it as they go and really be coming to appreciate it? What do you think about that?
Absolutely can learn as they go. Absolutely. Yeah. What's beautiful about the boating industry and people boating in general is they love sharing their knowledge. And somebody coming into the industry is taught, and there's so much to learn. You can never know everything about boats. So you're constantly learning. So it's a lovely industry in that regard. And you'll see it out in boating. Boaties always help each other. Boaties love to congregate and be sharing boats together. That's kind of lacking in some areas, other areas of community, because we don't talk to our neighbours so much anymore, or those sorts of things, but boaties do. So I love that aspect of boating, that we help each other, we share with each other, we spend time together, and it's a community.
Yeah, especially in the marinas, do you encounter very many people that are doing liveaboards that want to live full time on their boats? How's that in Australia and where you have your marinas?
We don't actually have that here because you're not allowed to. Okay. You can travel around, but you can't stay in one spot and live in a marina. So we have people that spend a lot of time on their boats. We have people that use them as weekenders. We have people that use them as offices. Yeah. But we don't have people sort of permanently living in a marina.
Yeah, in the States, you can be a liveaboard in certain marinas. And I also have the RV experience I've shared with you, that I have a mobile office, and I know a number of RVers that do both, that they spend part of the year living in their RV and part of the year living on their boat, and they go from one to the other. So you mentioned using boats as an office, which I think, like, what an amazing way to have an office, right? And so what's the latest thing with internet and things from a boat? Like, we use Starlink as far as traveling with an RV, and so you can really work from anywhere. And so how is it working for people that are using their boats as offices? Are they just tying into the marina's internet, or is there another system they use for boats these days?
They can get satellite dishes put onto their boats, so they can do that. Or all the marinas now have free Wi-Fi, all that sort of thing. So it's pretty easy to get connected. Although to be honest, some of them like to get disconnected as well.
Yeah, that's true too. What internet? Forget that. We just went to an event. It was 10 days long where they asked us to disconnect completely. So we had no internet, no phone, no television, no computers for the whole entire time. It was really very peaceful.
Was it hard at first?
It was, yeah. And they actually asked people to turn in their things if they felt like they couldn't do it. I just put all mine away. But like in your hotel room at night, sitting in silence, not turning on the news, not turning on the news in the morning, not sitting down to a computer, just time with your own thoughts. I mean, it's a really unusual experience these days to even have that at the time where you do that, and also observing silence. I'm thinking about the feeling of being on a boat and just hearing the lapping of the water and the motion of just that kind of lulling effect, and having that silence of just sound of the rigging, sound of the seagulls, that type of thing. It's really peaceful. It really, really is peaceful.
Yeah, beautiful.
So for women that are just thinking about, wow, what we like I find in the RV world, a lot of women say, I couldn't drive that, because I have a very big rig. It looks like a semi. And yes, I do all the driving, which is always funny. My husband has a guide dog. We can be standing there with guide dog in hand and me and husband, and people will look at it, look at us and say, so who drives it? Well, there's only one out of the three of us that's capable. So that would be me. So how do you find women with their courage factor when it comes to, captaining the boat, like driving the boat? How's that experience for women that are new to boating?
It is an interesting thing for them because it is a confidence play again. It's all practice, practice, practice. Interestingly, my son put together an app that you can actually learn how to drive your boat on your phone. It's called Boatmaster. So that they can practice in the lounge room before they get on the boat, because you know how we drive boats, motorboats in particular, using our engines when we're in close quarters rather than our wheels. So that teaches you all that sort of thing. So that's a good start. I really think there is a movement that's happening now in boating which is perfect for women, and there's boat clubs and boat syndications. Now the beauty of those, and that's our new business, we are excitingly the first franchisee for Freedom Boat Club, which, as you would know, is a massive American company through Brunswick. And Freedom Boat Club allows you to join a club that has a range of boats available for you to use. Oh, wow. And of course, as part of that joining process, you are taught how to drive the boats. So it's a perfect way for women to get into boating, because they're a decent sized boat. They're about 24-foot-ish, most of them, but it's not scary big straight away. Yeah. And they spend time with you because they're their boats. So they want to make sure that you're driving it. That they're still in one day. Yeah. So they don't want you bashing up their boats. So they teach you how to drive as part of the joining process. And I've heard a fantastic statistic from Cecil Cohn on a podcast. Interestingly, he looks after Freedom Worldwide. And he said that 35% of the new members of Freedom Boat Club are female. Oh, wow. Now that is massive. That's fantastic. So I think a really good way into boating for women is club or syndicate. And that movement is really, really getting big now all around the world. I mean, Freedom Boat Club themselves have, I think, 377 club locations. So yeah, just an amazing concept that you can join a club here. But if you're in Florida on holiday as an Australian, you can go to one of the clubs in Florida and book a boat there as well. So spectacular for women.
That sounds amazing, because you don't have to try and move the boat or, take it out of the water, store it anywhere. What size boat, you can learn on different sizes, different types. So do they have all types, like motor driven and sailboats? I mean, is it all different types of boats?
No, it's all motorboats, and you're spot on with that. And I guess it's another thing for women. We don't need something else to look after, right? So
backing up a trailer, getting no.
So this concept is, you rock up, the boat's ready to go, you get greeted by the Freedom team, you take the boat out, you bring it back, they clean it out, look after it for you, and get it set for the next client. So for those that are busy, and as women we're always busy, it's a lovely way of being able to enjoy boating without having that another mental load of having to think about the boat when you're not on it or looking, so that it's being cared for and looked after.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. And so
Yeah.
the locations anywhere there's water. I mean, is it?
Yeah. They basically have incredible locations all over. They're just starting to get into Europe, France, Spain, UK. They've just started to get into in the last couple of years. We are the first in Australia. There's a corporate Freedom Boat Club in Sydney Harbour, and then we have the region that goes from Bobbin Head right up to Port Stephens, and that is a stunning area of boating in Australia. There's so many coves and wonderful beaches to go to and so many places to explore. So we're really excited because obviously this is a much lower cost entry thing. You know, in Australia, people will probably pay around $10,000 to join, and then they'll pay around $800 a month to enjoy this lifestyle. Of course, normally to get into that sort of boating, if you were to buy one of those boats new, about $150,000 in, and then you've got to pay the berthing,
everything. You more, you know, where's the slip, you know, hauling it out, taking care of it, all the things that, very good.
So it's bringing boating to so many more people. And for me, I mean, that's so in line with my values of wanting to get as many people out of its boating as possible. It's not funny. So we're really excited. So the first 3 locations we'll have is Empire Marina, Bobbin Head, our marina at Bobbin Head, which is kind of on the top of the leafy north shore of Sydney. And then we've got Lake Macquarie. Now, Lake Macquarie is actually 2 times the size of Sydney Harbour, so it's no small boating space. And then Pittwater, which is, I don't know if you're a home and away fan, but Palm Beach and all that area up there, that's where Pittwater is.
Oh, wonderful. I mean, it just sounds like a perfect solution for women wanting to get involved in that. And I'll ask you before we wrap up today, just how people can get a hold of you or how they can find a way to join, you know? And so what do you think it does for women to be able to handle a boat?
Oh, it gives us such a power hit. Because when I'm on, you know, on the engines of my, you know, 1,200 horsepower each engines, you know, it's a really, I don't know, it's very satisfying. It's kind of cool that you're on the end of the power of, you know, 25 tons of boat or whatever you're driving. Mm-hmm. It's also incredibly satisfying to share it with others because it's a lifestyle that not everyone gets to enjoy, especially big boats. So sharing it is a very special moment. And I've always been a person that loves to host and loves to take care of people and all that sort of thing. So I love taking them out on the boat and just seeing them enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the thing you said about making people happy. And I feel like I can equate this to the driving of a big RV too, of just feeling that you have that capability, that you're not relegated to just being the passenger. Though sometimes it's nice to be the passenger too, but just being able to know you can handle it. And I think this feeds into so many other aspects of a woman's life, you know, what they do in business, what they're doing in their personal life, and how they feel about what they have to offer, you know. And really the same as, I suppose, driving an automobile. I mean, is there any cap on, as long as you're able to handle, make good decisions, drive safely, that you can do this for decades once you learn how to drive the boat, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. In Australia, you have to have a boat license if you're going over 10 knots, but that's a day course and you're done. Obviously, if you're getting to levels where you're driving a boat where people are paying to be on it, that's a whole different ball game. You've got to have all sorts of qualifications for that. But yeah, you can just get a boat and drive it forever, you know, spend your life traveling the world on a yacht, which lots of people are doing. I don't know if you've seen the Instagram world in that regard. There's so many people now that kind of live their lives on a boat and just work from their beautiful yacht, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I love that there's so many options in life, and we're fortunate. We're very blessed that we can even make these types of decisions, obviously. But for the most part, you know, we don't have to be relegated to just one way of life forever, you know. And I love the fact that women can come into this and learn a whole new skill. Really appreciate that they have this capability and the ability to learn something new. And again, I think it parallels with being an entrepreneur. Look what you've done. I mean, you know, you went to school for hospitality and you went from the Ritz to the boats. I mean, is it kind of like how your transition was into more water-based hospitality? And obviously you've grown and grown and grown with this. You have a bistro, you have a gelato shop. I mean, tell me about how that's worked for you. Did you always feel like I can just do all these multiple things with business, or has one thing just kind of led? How does that progression work for you?
Well, I started life as a conference and event manager. in hotels. And I think that's a skill set that you can take. You're running events for people, multiple events every day. And I think that's a skill set that's given me a lot of confidence to say, yeah, I can do that and just get on and do it. I've also had a lot of support around me in my world. Husband, parents, all those people have always been, you can do that. In terms of our different businesses and how they've progressed, we started with the marina, and it's a lot to do with the connections you make in life and the people that come into your life, and also listening to opportunities and being open to them, I guess, because you can have a conversation with somebody and not take anything in. But if you take it all in and you think, oh, that could be interesting. And also being a person that people want to be in business with, that they trust and want to spend time with, because obviously if you're in business with somebody, they'll spend time with. So if you're a miserable and unpleasant person to be with, they're not going to, give you that opportunity, are they? There's also, I guess, looking at niches and understanding all that. And the gelato one was a perfect example. Our friend came to us and said, I think we need to get into gelato. And okay.
Why not?
So we did. And we started in a fabulous country town in Orange in New South Wales, which is kind of a food area, that produce beautiful food out in Orange. And they're a fabulous community out there. So as soon as we opened, they were so incredibly supportive of that business, and they built that business, the community built that business, which was just beautiful of them. And then I guess the Freedom Boat Club is, again, something we're starting now. Not many people start something.
I did in my 50s. That's how I started.
We're like you. We kind of think, well, life's exciting and let's make it even more exciting. And I guess that's why you take on the opportunities and why you do these different things,
Well, I'm reading a book right now. It keeps coming to mind because of this conversation. It's called Burn the Boats. And it's actually by Matt Higgins, and it's actually about starting businesses and being creative without having a plan B, that you should burn the boats, that you don't go into it feeling like, well, if it doesn't work out, I can always do this, because his belief and his experience is you're already assigning yourself to failure by giving that kind of, I call it the weasel clause, the small print, that side exit over here, Have you felt like that? It seems like you almost have the Midas touch, like each business that you've started has done very, very well. And do you feel like you approach it without that plan B? Do you kind of mentally burn the boats? Of course it's going to succeed.
Absolutely. As a couple, we're, bite off as much as you can and chew like hell.
If something falls out along the way, we'll just dab.
But we have had some things fail. I tried to do a classic boat share company, which was, having old boats and doing a syndication model of it. Didn't work. So just because we look like we've had lots of success with things, there are some things that we've bitten off and it's failed. But so we just go, okay, that didn't work. And we move on to the next one. If you don't fail in business, I don't think you've really been in business.
It's really that polarity, to know one, you have to know the other. To know joy, you have to know sadness. To know success, you have to know failure.
Exactly.
And don't you think it's more what we do with that, instead of saying, well, of course I failed and I might as well forget it, I'm never going to succeed, versus, oh, what did we learn from that? Okay, moving on to the next thing. And there's that thought of, does it happen to you or for you? And how do you interpret that? So as you're saying, I've had things that didn't work out in business. You've had things that didn't work out in business, but it's just moving on and not letting that define you, as
exactly right. Yeah. And I mean, the beauty of having your own business is you can make it as successful as you want it to be by the amount of energy and effort you put into it. But sometimes it can just not work. And you've just got to say, right, we've got to move our energy to something else because that's not working.
Do you see any parallels in how a person handles a boat and a boating mentality? Do you see any parallels with business as far as how one is similar to this in boating that transfer over to business, like tenacity or the openness to learning? Do you see any parallels there?
It's a good question. I've never thought about it like that. I know that you have to plan and prepare when you're going boating. So you have to have risk management strategies in place, and you have to do that in business. You have to kind of plan ahead. What's the worst thing can happen? Therefore, how can we make sure that doesn't happen? What strategies can we put in place to make sure that doesn't happen? So when you go out boating, you have to make sure you've got all your safety gear on board, that you check the weather, that people on board with you, if they're new to boating, that you do a safety briefing with them before you set off, those sorts of things. So I guess we do that with business. We do a safety briefing with our team, make sure they're all safe and happy working with us. We have safety measures in place for worst case scenario. At the marina is a perfect example. We have to have ladders on the marina. If somebody falls in, you've got fire setups, you've got all those sorts of systems in place.
I think that's the key, systems, kind of operating systems, right?
Yes. Yeah. The more you systemize a business, the better it will be in terms of being able to manage it. And certainly in multiple businesses, the more you systemize everything. And the world of technology is fantastic for that now. Automated emails and people that can answer the phone for you, and all those different wonderful things that can be done by somebody else or by a system now is just fabulous.
Well, in boating, we're no longer the old-fashioned, the compass. Now we have GPS systems and electronics and depth finders and fish finders. I mean, that comes into the boating world too, right? The technology.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the other thing I would add to that, as I'm pondering my own question to you, is being willing to have a beginner's mindset, being willing to learn, being willing to try something new. I mean, obviously, like in the new business you're opening up, people will learn how to drive the boat. And so learning how to run a business or learning what you might be able to do with your skill set to become more entrepreneurial or just switch gears. And so in boating, you move up perhaps to a bigger boat.
Yeah.
In business, move up to a bigger vision for what you're capable of doing. I mean, I see a lot of parallels for it. And I just feel like what you're doing helps women be more in touch with all aspects of who they are and their strengths and their abilities to handle hard stuff, things that a lot of people think, oh, you can't do that, and build confidence for all aspects of life.
Yeah. And if I may, women approach driving a boat, for example, from a very different angle to what men do. So that's a generalization. There's going to be different women and different men do it differently. But men tend to have an ego. When they've bought a beautiful boat, they're usually very successful businessmen. So they say, well, I can do this and I can do that and I can drive a car and blah, blah, blah. So why can't I drive a boat? And they'll get on a big boat without having any teaching, learning, asking anybody. They'll try and drive the boat perfectly. And they won't drive it perfectly. Whereas women will say, okay, who can I pay to teach me, or which friend can teach me? Never get your husband to teach you, by the way.
Yeah.
Who can help me learn how to drive this boat? And they'll do it gentler as well. Women will drive a boat gently. Guys will tend to, so talk to anybody that teaches somebody how to drive boats. They love teaching women more than they do men.
Would it be politically incorrect to say this does not surprise me? Let's take a chance on it.
And I think it's the same in business, where women are willing to say, how do I do this? And ask for help of people like yourself to coach them, or they need that help and they'll ask for it, which is wonderful.
It's sort of like maps, all the jokes about men that won't read maps. Now we don't even need to, just have GPS, but not asking for directions, all of those things.
Exactly.
And I'm sure we're just having a little fun with this. It's a generality, but I bet there's a lot of people who can relate to it.
They can relate to it, exactly.
So it's just been so delightful to talk to you about this. I just love that it's a whole new niche to even think about, Tell me again the name of the new business, the Freedom business, for people to be able to.
So it's Freedom Boat Club. And so we've literally just announced that we're the franchise here for that region in Australia.
Second, folks.
Yes. Like last week is when we announced it.
Oh, it's so timely. I love this.
Really, really, really new. Yeah. So we'll be launching it in July. And so I've got so much to do, as you can imagine. But it's very exciting. And Brunswick themselves are brilliantly supportive. So I think it's going to be an amazing business. And I'm just really chuffed to bring boating to so many more people.
It's exciting. And, I mean, not to be too much in the puns, but it really is a launch, you know.
Yes, it is.
Our new aspect
Yeah.
of your business. And how can people find you for all the other amazing things you do, especially the women's tours and things? How can they track you down, Nicky?
Okay, so that's venusgetaways.com.au. We've only got one property on there at the moment. It's a beautiful Blue Mountains property where we have butler service there full time. Because you and I know that when we go to a holiday home, we do exactly the same things at a different sink, right?
Yeah, I love that, different sink.
So we try and create a scenario that you literally don't lift a finger. So the butler serves your drinks, clears up after you, turns down the bed. We have massages on site, so the girls get massages by professional therapists. Butler cooks your breakfast. You can go out for dinner, or you can order in, or whatever you want to do for food. You bring your own drinks, and you therefore get to enjoy the wine you actually like. And then I always say the girls, when they first book in, because they're not used to kind of this butler concept, they say, why do we need the butler? And what does he do? And I say, think about you when you were a mum and you clear after the kids and you do everything for them and you'd fill and empty the dishwasher, and that's what the butler does. And they say, oh, okay, I'm not quite sure, but we'll book it anyway. And they book in. And then at the end of the week, there's only 2 nights they've had. They arrive with shoulders like this and they go with shoulders. And they say to us often at the end, can we take the butler home with us?
They come on, they ooze out the door. They're so relaxed, they just kind of slither on out the door.
Yes. We often have tears when they leave because they just don't want to go. But it's delightful seeing. And what's beautiful about it, girls book it as a group themselves. So it'll be girlfriends that have met in a mum's group, or they've known each other forever and it's a 50th or 60th birthday or something like that. And what's beautiful is they'll all sit in the lounge room and they'll talk out all of their little problems they're going through. And they'll all find they've all got exactly the same problems. And then they kind of solve it in the room, or they just feel better about the fact that they've got the same problems. Yeah. So it's a girls' getaway, but it's kind of a therapy session at the same time.
Well, that's amazing. I heard someone say recently that almost all human problems are just recycled. You know, we have so much similarity with what we consider to be challenges in life and all of those things. And it's great to be able to just kind of let go of it, you know, and have that relaxing time. So that sounds so much fun. Anywhere else they can find you? I mean, I know they're gonna have to go in person if they want some of your gelato.
So gelato is spilt milk gelato, so they can follow that on Instagram. The marinas is empiremarinas.com.au. And of course, my personal website is theboatprincess.com. And there we do a newsletter that tells them about the events we're doing. It also gives tips on, 5 things to look for when you're buying a boat, or, all little things that are useful for them, that comes out once a month. It'll also give tips of what to dress like when you're going to boat show, little things like that are useful to make people feel more comfortable about, especially if they're going into the boating world for the first time. Understanding that those little things can make them feel less self-conscious, if you like, if they're going into a boat show and looking at boats and they've got just a few questions under their belt to say, oh, what's this? And then they suddenly look as if they're knowledgeable, and then the brokers will take them seriously. You see,
right. It all works out.
So,
that sounds amazing.
My podcast is my favorite. I mean, it's kind of weird for me being the person being asked the questions today. I'm like, oh, this is a bit weird, because my podcast is my joy. I interview women throughout the boating industry, and that is on the usual Spotify, Audible, Apple Podcasts, and it's called The Boat Princess.
The Boat Princess, folks. You can find Nicky, the Boat Princess, at the Boat Princess. So thanks so much for joining us from Fiji today. I love it. That's maybe the most exotic location that I've interviewed someone in so far.
Thank you. Well, watch this space. This beautiful villa should be going on Venus Getaways, which is just divine.
Oh, awesome. There you go. Next booking coming right up. So thanks so much for being with me today, Nicky. We really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you, Tina. It's been my absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you talking to me. It's lovely to get the message out to so many more women, especially in the US, because there are so many fabulous women over there, and I'm really delighted to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey folks, thanks for sticking around. If you'd like more of this great content, check out these videos on the page. And if you're new here, be sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss a thing. And I'll talk to you again soon.